Hi everyone, it's Ajanette and I am here to finish your last lecture on, I have 3 more theories to go, and so we're going to wrap up social and emotional development. First, let me introduce you to Erik Erikson. Let me move my little face out of the way for you. Erik Erikson is actually one of my favorite theorists. He studied under Freud and developed the psychosocial theory of development. He suggested that rather than our sexual urges and impulses being the catalyst for our development, our social interactions are really the foundational tool to help shape our development. He talked about these psychosocial crises that we experience at every stage of life. And depending upon our social interactions, we can resolve that stage in a happy, healthy, positive way, or we can resolve it in a negative way. He suggested that development extended well beyond those first few, 5 to 6 years of life, and they continue throughout our lifespan. So his stages actually coincide with the developmental periods. It is a stage theory, but unlike Freud, we're not fixated. If you resolve a stage in a healthy manner in the earlier years, it's going to increase your probability of resolving the stages in a healthy manner in the later years as well. His first stage is trust versus mistrust. This is during infancy. And if we have healthy, responsive, nurturing, sensitive caretaking, then we're more likely to resolve this with a sense of trust. If we have inconsistent parenting, unresponsive, maybe they're not tending to our diapers or they're not as consistent in their responses, then it might foster a sense of mistrust in the world. And in that toddlerhood stage, we enter autonomy versus shame and doubt, where potty training becomes a central part of this stage. And we might have a responsive parent that kind of supports us in the process, gives us cheers, yay, good for you, and really promotes that sense of autonomy. We have a cognitive understanding of ourself as independent, and I'm my own person, and I'm not fully dependent as I was in the infant stage. And so, again, healthy social interactions are going to foster autonomy, or there could be shameful and critical and negative and disparaging, and they really don't empower that sense of autonomy. In early childhood, preschool age, we move into initiative versus guilt, where I want to be a big boy or a big girl, and I want to show a lot of initiative and take care of things on my own and dress myself, and I want to do big boy things. Now I'm big enough I can pour my own drink. And again, that social interaction can encourage that and empower that and build on that, or it can make you feel a sense of guilt where you may have let down others and maybe made some mistakes and spilled some milk, and so now you're kind of a disappointment. Moving into school age, we now face industry versus inferiority, where industriousness is referencing we're really busy, we're doing a lot, taking care of a lot, learning a lot, and that classroom environment becomes our socializing agency. So we move from kind of your caretaker as your primary socializing agent to now that classroom, your peers, your teacher. If you're getting all the stickers on the sticker chart and you're checking off that list that your teacher writes on the board, then that's a sense of industriousness. Or if you're falling behind and you're just not picking up those skills and you're not learning to read and the times tables just aren't sticking with you, it could lead to a sense of inferiority. So children with learning disabilities can become very vulnerable at this stage, and it's really important that teachers kind of keep their eyes open for that. In adolescence, now with puberty, we have this new identity we have to forge. We have to figure out who we are with this new sexual body. What's my orientation? What kind of boyfriend or girlfriend am I? Who am I romantically? Also, what about my career? Am I going to go to college? What am I going to do for the rest of my life? What are my beliefs politically? Do I believe in God? What are my religious views? So all of those things start to take shape if we're engaging in what Erikson called a moratorium, or an active exploration of who we are on those multiple dimensions. If we don't ever step into that moratorium, or we never resolve that in a healthy way, we might end up in a period of confusion, which can be very distressing, where we can't really figure ourselves out and don't really know what's going to happen to our lives going forward. In early adulthood, it's now about forging those intimate relationships, developing a sense of vulnerability, connection to others, and maybe choosing our partner in marriage for the rest of our lives and starting to build our family. We can't forge those relationships, or we have failed relationship after failed relationship. We might feel a sense of isolation, loneliness, separation, and disconnectedness. And so now we might move into our immediate families and partners and husbands and wives and boyfriends and girlfriends becoming those primary socializing agents. In middle adulthood, which is where I am, we develop a sense of generativity versus stagnation. Generativity is really, if you focus on the root word of generation, it's about looking at providing a good life and leaving your children and grandchildren with a safe world and making a difference in their lives going forward. And it's really shifting from empowering you to empowering others. And a lot of kind of community service emerges at this age. Or you might feel like your life doesn't have a lot of meaning or purpose, or you were stuck in a rut, you never pursued your own goals and dreams, and so you might be stagnant. And then finally, in late adulthood, we battle with integrity versus despair. This is the first stage of life where we're kind of looking back on life rather than forward. And we might look back on our lives and feel a sense of satisfaction that we lived a life well and that we made good choices and overall we're proud of what we're leaving behind and the legacy that we've left. Or we might look back with a lot of regrets, a lot of burned bridges and kind of shattered dreams. And so we might have a sense of despair. If you look at the people that have integrity, they usually have much more peace about impending death. They might feel like they have something better awaiting for them in the afterlife. With those in despair, they have a lot of fear and intrepidation, and they might have a lot of life, a lot of kind of regrets and misery. Okay, so that's kind of Erikson, one of my favorites covering the whole lifespan. I'm going to move on and talk about Holland's personality theory. Holland's theory really centers around this notion of the compatibility between our personality and our career, suggesting if we choose a career that really fits our personality, it can be very fulfilling, enriching, and gratifying in life, and we might be more successful in that career. Versus if we choose a career that's very incompatible, it might actually put us at risk of burnout, and it might lead to a lot of dissatisfaction in life. And since we spend a great portion of our life in our careers, it's important that it be fulfilling. He says there's 6 basic personalities, and they kind of align with this hexagon. Realistic personality, really like skill, strength, kind of hands-on, coordinated stuff. And so mechanics or people that can work with their hands, construction, farmers, things of that nature. They really like to kind of dig in. Also maybe a police officer, a firefighter. Investigative personalities tend to be, very problem solving. They like to kind of think critically, figure out solutions, patterns, very organized in their approaches to things, and they really like to expand their understanding of concepts. Any type of scientific field is compatible, a mathematician, or maybe a news reporter that likes to solve problems and figure things out. Artistic personalities are those that really tap into those creative skills. They like to be kind of unstructured. They like freedom to explore. They don't like to be trapped kind of in the same monotonous jobs. And any type of artistic career is great, interior decorator, but someplace where they can have some freedom of expression. Conventional are kind of very rule-based. They like things that are structured, organized, detailed. They really like kind of policies and procedures, maybe making them or following them. Accountants work really well, bank tellers, a lot of our kind of clerical positions, and maybe management or administrators really like that conventional approach. Enterprising are kind of those kind of innovative. They like to influence and persuade others to kind of go along with their ideas. They like to kind of be their own person and own boss. Often these are our lawyers, our real estate agents, our entrepreneurs. Definitely Steve Jobs was definitely one of those enterprising individuals. And then finally, there's social personality, which seems to be the most common in my classes. Those individuals really like to be around others. They want to help other people. They want to develop those social relationships and help other people kind of find their own place. And so social workers, counselors, teachers, even nurses, and think about that bedside manner becomes really important. So the personalities closest to yours have more consistent or overlapping traits, and the ones opposite of yours typically across the hexagon also have opposite personalities. And so try to find a career that aligns with the social personality, if that's your personality type, or one close to it, and try to avoid the careers opposite of it. And there's actually some websites you can go onto and take a personality test to kind of test out your personality, and I'm going to do that for you for your learning activity. And then finally, there's Kubler-Ross, who studied death and dying. She actually studied this. We often talk about Kubler-Ross as the stages of grief, but really it was the stages of dying. Her research was done on people who were diagnosed with terminal diseases, and she watched them through the dying process. She said that they go through stages, and certainly those stages, and from her theory, were kind of orderly and sequential. First, we go through a state of denial where, no, the doctor got it wrong. It's not us. This can't be right. There's going to be a cure. I'm going to be fine. Then we might be angry at God, angry at the world, angry at our partner for being healthy, angry at ourselves for maybe smoking or not adhering to a healthy lifestyle. Then we might enter a stage of bargaining where we're negotiating with God. If you just give me a cure, if you let this treatment work, I promise I'll go to church. I promise I'll help others. I promise I'll follow through with this. Then once those promises, that bargaining isn't successful, we might reach a state of depression about our impending death and just feel grief and sadness and lack of motivation. And then finally we work through that and we realize, hey, we're going to accept this and we're going to make the most of our final days and kind of try to spend quality time with our loved ones and say goodbye in kind of a respectful way, and we're going to die with dignity. And so I think that Kubler-Ross was really instrumental because she allowed us to really engage in the study of dying, death and dying, thanatology as they call it, and it really helped to fuel the hospice movement and the concept of euthanasia and someone's ability to exercise their own right to die in a manner that's consistent with their values. So they want to die with dignity, maybe in a hospice environment around their loved ones, not in a hospital. They don't want to be resuscitated multiple times, and they want to maintain whatever quality of life is available to them during those final moments. And so I never like ending human development with death and dying. So, this is always a hard thing for me, but you should know that, the cycle of life continues. And just as we started with fetal development, the new life continues, and we honor our loved ones in the next generations. We honor those that we've lost through names and through their memories and through celebrating them. So their legacy lives on in all of us. And so that closes the chapter. I hope you found some theories that you enjoy, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next module.